Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Game Week 37, the final double game week of the season and the penultimate game week of the whole entire campaign. And we're going to look at the best team to wildcard into in Game Week 37 if you still have your wildcard left for some reason at this point of time. And obviously that has some drawbacks because if you wildcard in Game Week 37, you can't use the bench boosting Game Week 37, so you'd obviously just have a starting 11 and then have your bench that will not be able to play. Unlike someone like me who wildcarded in Game Week 35, who will get a bench boost this week and have 15 players playing, with a lot of them having double game weeks as well. But at the very least, this will optimize the team for both this game week and also Game Week 38 as well. Game Week 38 is a game week that a lot of people are forgetting about because Game Week 37 is the big price, I guess, with the double game weeks there for all those teams. But we have some nice players for Game Week 38 as well with this team. So I think it's actually a really strong draft. So if you have your wildcard left, obviously, this would be the time to play it, I think, because, we have 2 more game weeks left of the season. Unless your team is already perfectly set up and is pretty close to what I'm going to present to you today, then go ahead with your team in Game Week 37, and then you can wildcard in Game Week 38 into like the best possible team for one single game week. So essentially turning your wildcard into a free hit, for example. But yeah, let's just get started with the number 1 pick for the weekly wildcard draft. And as always with this video series, the number 1 draft pick in this wildcard draft is going to be the player that I think is the most important player to have currently in Fantasy Premier League. And then the 15th player in my draft is going to be the player that I'm the most unsure about having in the wildcard draft, basically. So number 1, we have a new number 1, and that is former number 1, and that is Erling Haaland. He was number 1 for most of the start of the season. But Cole Palmer has been a more high-valued player because of his price earlier in the season. But money's not an issue now with the final 2 game weeks of the season. It's all about having the best possible captaincy choice. And with Haaland scoring 4 goals in his last game against Wolverhampton, it's pretty clear that he's going to be the best captaincy choice for both of these 2 last game weeks. Fulham and Spurs, both pretty much on the beach, pretty much struggling as it is. West Ham, for sure, on the beach. And it's just a pretty easy game there against West Ham, who keep conceding a lot of goals in these past few games. So Haaland's going to be the best captain's option for both these 2 remaining game weeks, I think, and that makes him a pretty easy number 1 pick for that reason, because he's just in that such high-scoring form, basically, with 4 goals against Wolverhampton. So not really too much to say here. Plays for the team that is most likely going to win the league, and also takes penalties for that team and is the focal point of their attack, who's going to score a lot of goals. So Haaland comes in at number 1. Cole Palmer, though, is still a really good pick, and obviously someone that should be in your draft regardless, with the double game week especially, playing Nottingham Forest and Brighton, 2 other teams that don't really have much to play for. Nottingham Forest, you could say, they are playing to not get relegated, and Chelsea have struggled a bit with Nottingham Forest since Forest got promoted 2 seasons ago, so maybe that's a bit of a trap game for Palmer, but Palmer's still an amazing player who can still get some points from that game, even if Nottingham Forest make things difficult for Chelsea. We did actually see City struggle a bit at the City ground against Nottingham Forest not too long ago, so maybe that will be a tougher fixture than what I've given them credit for here with a light blue color, which means the second easiest possible fixture. But still, Brighton away. Brighton are just terrible at the moment, and I think Chelsea are in a really good moment in time now. So I think Palmer is going to be just fine for both of these games. And then Bournemouth at home in the final game is also really, really nice. So Palmer, pretty easy pick at number 2. Number 3, we have Alexander Isak from Newcastle. No worries with Wilson coming back into the squad because they play both of them at the same time up front. And Isak was amazing, obviously, scoring 2 goals. Had a penalty miss as well, which is kind of sad. He was just given penalty duties over Wilson, taking a penalty with Wilson on the pitch, and then he managed to miss the penalty when he had that chance. So most likely Wilson's going to be back on pens now, which is going to be a drawback for Isak. But before this game, this past game where he missed the penalty, we did expect Wilson to be the penalty taker, so not much has really changed in that regard. But what has changed is the fact that we saw Isak play basically just 90 minutes and be really effective both with Wilson on the pitch and without Wilson on the pitch. So I think that's going to continue. He's going to be the starter for Newcastle, and he's going to be playing 90 minutes for Newcastle as well, which is really, really good with these fixtures. Brighton at home, Man United away. 2 amazing fixtures, looking at how bad Man United are currently with Johnny Evans and Casemiro as their centre-backs. That's going to be a brilliant fixture. Brighton at home. Brighton have been awful lately as well, even though they had a pretty good result now against Aston Villa. And then Brentford away in the final game as well is also a really nice game for Isak and Newcastle, trying to fight for those remaining European spots. So Isak, I think, is pretty much essential as well, as is Palmer and Haaland from City and Chelsea. Basically, the 3 best players from the 3 best teams to target currently with the double game week in 37 and game week 38 in mind. Then we also have Phil Foden at number 4. I think he's the second best City assets by quite a distance still. He's better than De Bruyne, who sadly is going to drop out of this team because he hasn't really impressed lately. He got 2 points this past game against Wolverhampton. It's not to say De Bruyne is a bad pick by any means, but Foden is just cheaper and he's been more involved than De Bruyne basically all season. So I think Foden is a better pick in midfield, and I think you also want a City defender for those final games because it doesn't seem like City are going to concede too many goals in these final games as well. And they have a really nice defensive player that I'm going to talk about later on in this video. But Foden, breakout season for him, like total breakout season. He has always been a top class player, but now he's like been potentially the best player in the league this season. So yeah, Foden is absolutely amazing. He gets points here and there. He's going to get a hat-trick potentially in one of these games because he's shown that this season as well. He can get some hat-tricks. So really good option. Haaland's obviously a better captaincy option because he's just more consistent and more at the front of the attack for City, obviously, but Foden's still a damn good player, so he comes in at number 4 for that reason. Number 5, we have Nicholas Jackson, and I just have to put my hands up. I was kind of afraid of having another Darwin Núñez on my hands with Nicholas Jackson, but he has proved that he is far better than Darwin Núñez, and I don't know why Nicholas Jackson has been clowned all season, and Darwin has sort of been like this chaos guy. I remember like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, people were saying that was in the midst of Haaland having a bit of a slump and struggling to score. People were saying Darwin was better than Haaland, and yeah, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I think Nicholas Jackson is closer to that at least, but even still, Jackson's obviously not half the player that Haaland is. But Jackson has been really, really good lately, not just in terms of scoring goals. He scored a couple of goals against West Ham, but also in terms of just being a nice player on the pitch as well. He's been lively. He's been linking up well with his teammates. He's looking really good. And then Nkunku came on last game, but Nicholas Jackson still played on and scored a goal after that as well. I think Nkunku is only going to benefit Jackson if he plays as well. So I think that's going to be really nice for the double game week. So Nicholas Jackson, my hands are up. I benched him this past game week. Mostly that was due to him playing against West Ham, which is my favorite team. And that's the mistake I've done over and over this season. And that's over and over again this season. And that's probably what's going to cost me the top 10k potentially. So for now on, play Nicholas Jackson in Game Week 37 in the double, and then play him in Game Week 38, and just be happy to have a really nice potential breakout player next season. I think Nicholas Jackson, he's been really good this season in terms of scoring goals, but he's left a lot to be desired when it comes to missing chances and stuff. But I think he has another gear to kick into next season, especially with Nkunku. Those two up front next season with Chelsea in much better form from the start of the year. I think it's going to be really good from next season on. But he's also going to be really nice for the final 2 games of the season, obviously, and that's why he's the number 5 pick in this draft. Number 6, we have Anthony Gordon, and I did start Anthony Gordon last game playing away, which is the dreaded fixture for Gordon. Playing away against anyone is supposedly so bad, but he did get an assist. He also won the penalty that Isak missed, so he could have had a huge score as well for Newcastle in that game against Burnley. And Newcastle are just in really good goal-scoring form lately, so even though Gordon was playing on the left in a 4-4-2 type of situation with Wilson and Isak last time around, I'm not sure that's going to be the case every single game, but now he has that fantastic home fixture. He's been so good at home, and that means you sort of need to have him and you sort of need to start him because he plays Brighton at home, and then he has that away fixture to Man United, but we've seen Man United now against Crystal Palace how bad they've looked, and he's going to be having decent chances to score some points there as well. Newcastle have really easy fixtures away from home to end the season, and I think that's going to help Gordon's away numbers. Obviously, there's going to be a huge discrepancy between home and away numbers for Gordon, but I think he's going to be just fine away from home, and he's going to be awesome at home as well. You can also just bench him in that game against Brentford in Game Week 38 because you're going to have some pretty nice players that play in 38 and don't have a double in 37 in this draft because you're not bench boosting in 37 either. So yeah, for Game Week 37, Gordon's going to be amazing, and for Game Week 38, he's going to be a nice backup option if you need him, or you could potentially start him if he's looking fantastic in those fixtures against Brighton and especially against Man United away. If you have more faith in his away fixture form, and you could play him in Game Week 38 as well. But for this team, you don't really need him to play in 38. You just need him for the magnificent Game Week 37 for him. So that's why he's number 6 in this draft. Number 7, we have Heung-min Son, and he's been really disappointing lately. He looked really disappointing against Liverpool as well for a long while, but then Spurs had that little flurry towards the end of the game where they sort of tried to make it interesting after being 4-0 down. But I think the reason for me having Son is, 1, he's the penalty taker still for Spurs, so that's why he's slightly preferred over Richarlison. I did actually consider Richarlison for this team because he's going to play striker for Spurs and has been a more lethal player in that position than Son this season. So for that reason, I think Richarlison is a really nice differential option, but I think Son being on penalties is amazing, and obviously he has that proven track record in FPL as well. Playing as Burnley at home, Sheffield United away, really good fixtures for him. I think he scored like 4 goals or 3 goals or whatever against Burnley away from home, so he could easily do that again. The fixtures are just really good, and the Man City fixtures, well, I think Son has proven in the past that he can score against Man City. Richarlison hasn't really shown that, and Son potentially has the chance to score against City, even though I think Spurs will lose that game quite handedly. But Son, still a really good pick, I think, especially with the fixtures coming up, despite him being really disappointing lately. Hoping for some nice things from Son to end the season on a high, at least, because it's been a really good season for Son. It's been a really good season, or decent season at least now, for Spurs. And they should definitely give Ange Postecoglou more time. I think shouts of him going out and stuff is just really bad and really misplaced. They've struggled with a lot of injuries, and it's finally caught up with them, with all their squad being really tired and them just struggling to be at their best, basically. But Son is still amazing. An amazing player, and Spurs still have the capabilities to score at least against these teams like Burnley and Sheffield United, maybe even against Man City, but we'll see about that. Number 8, we have Gabriel Magalhaes in defense, and you could easily just bench him in Game Week 37, but for Game Week 38, I think he is the best defender to have against Everton, who are struggling to score, but are scoring a goal here and there usually. But I think our Arsenal will be able to keep a clean sheet against Everton. Even against Man United away, I think that's a decent fixture for Gabriel, but you don't really need him because you're going to have a super strong team with just double Game Week players in Game Week 37 without the bench boost in mind in this. But still, Gabriel is an amazing defender. He's been really good this whole season. A lot of people have valued that into him, and he's just a really nice attacking threat, as well as being a really good defender in the best defensive team in the league by far. So Gabriel is a pretty easy pick as the best defender to have in the game, even though he's not going to start in Game Week 37, because I don't really think there are that many standout picks in Game Week 37 either for defenders. That's the big struggling point for most people now, with injuries to Maguire and Fabian Schär and those guys. Who are you going to replace them with? And to be honest, you could just go with some Arsenal players that you can play in Game Week 38 instead. That should be like your main focus, because there are no really good Game 37 defenders. But I'm going to mention a couple of defenders eventually here in this draft, because as you can see, there's mostly been midfielders and attackers so far, and that's because I have so much more faith in those guys. Those 7 starting up front there in Game 37, I have a lot of faith in all of them. And they are basically the template players for good reason, because they are really, really good. But yeah, when it comes to defenders, I think Gabriel is a really nice shoe-in type of guy to have for Game Week 38, especially maybe in Game Week 37 if you need him. He's going to be really nice. If you need someone off the bench, he's going to be really nice. So he comes in at number 8. Number 9, we have Gvardiol from Man City, and he's joined the team now. You can see he's marked in green, which means he's a new player. He's been able to join the team because I've dropped De Bruyne out of the team, because I think Gvardiol has just outscored him lately. He's just been better, flat out. Gotten the assist from winning the penalty last time around. Got the goal before that with 15 points. So he's just been a better player, better value player, cheaper player as well, and a really nice defender as well. I said we don't really have that many good defenders, and Gvardiol is one of them. He's actually a really good defender. So he could actually be higher than Gabriel in this draft. But it's just the fact that I'm still not 100% sure if I would go without De Bruyne or with De Bruyne if I still had my wildcard left. I do have De Bruyne in my own team, and I'm not too sad about having him either. So it's just that thing. If you want to use that third city spot on the defender, or go for the all-out attack player against the likes of Fulham, Spurs, and West Ham. And if they draw against Fulham or Spurs, then they need to win like 8-0 against West Ham, and they can easily do that. So maybe De Bruyne will be a better fit than Gvardiol, but I don't know. Gvardiol has just been amazing lately, and he's going to play super attackingly as well. He's going to be a threat to score and assists in each and every game, as well as having the clean sheets and the bonus points on top of that. So I think he's just a really, really good pick for anyone wanting a good defender. So he comes in at number 9. Number 10, we have Pedro Porro, and again, it's the same thing as with Son, just the easy fixtures. Burnley at home, Sheffield United away, 2 teams that are, well, Sheffield United are getting relegated, and Burnley are looking really close to getting relegated now as well. Obviously, the game against Spurs could potentially seal it, so that could be a nice game for Pedro Porro. He's also a really good attacking player with set pieces now, with Madison in and out of the squad. Pedro Porro is going to be the one on set pieces as well, which is really, really nice for him. That's when he was at his best this season, when he was on set pieces in and around Game Week 20, around that time, when he was like basically like an essential pick. So with the 2 last remaining game weeks, with Burnley and Sheffield United, double game week in Game Week 37, despite it being Man City, he could potentially get some points there, maybe at least some appearance points. Hopefully he doesn't concede too many goals in that game, I guess. But yeah, he comes in at number 10 for that reason. Just set piece threat, and yeah, really good fixtures. Even though Spurs are not looking that good lately, he makes it into the squad because there are not that many good defenders apart from him and Gvardiol and Gabriel, basically. So yeah, Moving on to number 11, and we have another Arsenal player, and that is Ben White. We've doubled up with Arsenal defense, but we're also just going to bench them for the game against Man United. I do think they have a decent chance of keeping a clean sheet against Man United, so maybe you want to start them over someone like my last defender, who's going to be Dan Burn. Maybe you want to start a single game week Arsenal player over a double game week Newcastle player, but I just think Newcastle's fixtures are just superior to Arsenal's fixtures, obviously with the double game week and stuff. They do have that Man United fixture away, which is the same as Arsenal, and then they have Brighton at home on top of that. So Ben White, someone you can stash for game week 38 as well. Double Arsenal defense for that game week is going to be really nice because Arsenal defense is the most reliable in the league, especially against Everton, who struggle to create chances as well. I think that's going to be a really nice game week for Arsenal defenders with Gabriel and White, potentially scoring goals as well, because Arsenal might need to have those goals to fend off of Man City if it comes down to goal difference if City draw in one of those games in the double game week. But Ben White, just a terrific defender, been one of the best players to have in FPL for this final part of the season, and he comes in at number 11 for that reason. Number 12, we have another Arsenal player, triple up on Arsenal, with 3 players that are going to be benched for Game Week 37 most likely, even though they have a decent fixture against Man United, and then you're going to be able to play them in Game Week 38, and Havertz is the attacker that I want from Arsenal. I know Saka is on penalties, he's been scoring lately, but Havertz has just been the main guy for Arsenal, scoring the most goals, winning the penalties as well, from controversial means, I think, because he sort of dragged his foot last time around, but Havertz is like that. He's in the box, he can score from headers, he can score from regular play, he can win penalties as he showed. So Havertz just has a lot of ways to score, and he's been terrific as well towards the end of the season. So again, he keeps his place from last time around in the weekly wildcard draft, because I think it's going to be really, really nice to have in Game 38 as a nice differential option. So he comes in at number 12. Number 11, or number 13, sorry, is Dan Burn from Newcastle. I did mention him earlier, and I think he's going to be the one to start over Ben White and Gabriel in game week 37, just because of the fixtures with Brighton at home and Man United away. Dan Burn isn't really the best when it comes to goal scoring or anything like that, or even bonus, but Newcastle could keep clean sheets in both of these games. Man United just look really bad offensively, especially without Fernandes. If he's out for this game week, we don't know yet if he's going to be out for those 2 games, but Brighton at home as well should also be a really nice fixture. Brighton scored a penalty against Aston Villa, but that was pretty much it. They did have a couple of other chances against Aston Villa as well, but Aston Villa were sort of in between 2 Conference League matches, so I think it was going to be a difficult game for Aston Villa anyway. So I think at home especially, Burn has a really nice chance of keeping a clean sheet in this game against Brighton, and even against Man United he has a decent chance of keeping a clean sheet. And then in game week 38 against Brentford away, where you most likely assume they will concede, you can just bench him and play White and Gabriel instead, for example. So yeah, happy days for anyone with Burn in their team still who didn't go for Fabian Schär earlier on the wildcard in game week 35. But yeah, he still comes in at number 13 with this draft, Dan Burn, because I think he's going to be a really nice option for game week 37 still. And that leaves basically just 2 goalkeepers. Again, I think defenders are kind of poor, and I think goalkeepers are even worse because they don't really have that attacking threat either. I don't really think any of the double game week goalkeepers are looking that good. But let's just go into the goalkeepers. First, we have Petrovic, who's been decent lately, actually. He's kept 2 clean sheets, 3 clean sheets even in the not too distant past. So yeah, with the fixtures against Nottingham Forest away, Brighton away, Bournemouth at home, could really be the only goalkeeper you need, especially seeing as you don't need a bench boost with this draft because you're wildcarding in game week 37. So I think Petrovic is still a really nice goalkeeper option. Obviously, could be some other Chelsea players you want to have. Maybe you want to have Madueke, for example, in midfield. He could be a nice option there, especially if you are doing that single transfer rather than doing a wildcard like this team is. But I think Petrovic has shown lately he's solid enough, and Chelsea have shown some promise defensively. Thiago Silva is leaving the club as well, so they want to give him the proper send-off. But Achille has looked good lately. And yeah, they looked more cohesive defensively, Chelsea, despite having so many injuries. So Petrovic is a decent goalkeeper. Maybe he should be higher in the draft, but yeah, I just don't really care that much about goalkeepers in this draft, to be honest, because goalkeepers aren't really that exciting in FPL, regardless of when they're playing, basically. Number 15, we have Vicario again, or Vicario from Spurs. And again, it's just down to the fixtures, but you might not even have to play him. Maybe you just play Petrovic both game weeks. But Sheffield United away, I think is the best possible game to have. Or Sheffield United at home would be even better. But Sheffield United in game week 38 is probably the best possible fixture to have. So yeah, why not just go for the player that has that fixture, and that's Vicario, who has a double game week as well in game week 37. If for some reason Petrovic is magically dropped for Sanchez for some reason, you have Vicario ready to step up against Burnley and Man City. So he fulfills the team as the 15th pick, but again, don't really think the final goalkeeper spot is that important, especially on a wildcard where you can't bench boost in Game Week 37. So that's the entire team of 15 players. You can see Petrovic, Vicario, Gvardiol, White, Gordon, and Jackson all in green, which means they are new players since the last draft. And that means that those 6 guys have come in for 6 guys that have dropped out. So let's take a look at the 6 players that have dropped out since last time. And the main guy is obviously Kevin De Bruyne, who I had a lot of faith in. He scored 4 goals against Wolverhampton last season. I did have high hopes for him in the game against Wolverhampton this time around. He played about 78 minutes or so. Man City beat them 5-1, and De Bruyne got 2 points. So yeah, he just kind of disappointed me this past game week. Obviously, he could turn back and be really, really good against Fulham and Spurs, potentially. He still has a really high ceiling. I think if you're chasing a mini league, for example, I think De Bruyne is going to be the best third asset from Man City, but I think Gvardiol has just proven to be better value lately, so De Bruyne drops out for that reason, basically. If I could have De Bruyne in the midfield on top of having the 3 City players that I already have, I would have probably. So yeah, that tells you something about De Bruyne and how much I value him as well, despite him having a blank last game week. But De Bruyne is still amazing, obviously, but 3 City spots have been taken already, so he drops out. David Raya also drops out as the goalkeeper. He got his clean sheet last time around. Petrovic did as well, so you could have just had Petrovic instead, I guess. But he was basically there for Game Week 36 and Game Week 38, basically. And now he only has Game Week 38, and I think Petrovic or Vicario, depending on who you want to play, is probably a better option in that final game week than David Raya. Especially seeing as we already have 3 Arsenal players as well in the squad. So I think Gabriel and White just have more potential in terms of points than Raya. And Havertz obviously is someone you want in attack. You might even want to go with just a single Arsenal defensive player as well and have Havertz and Saka especially, or potentially ready for next week. Do just a transfer of Gordon to Saka or someone like that if need be next week. You could do that as well. But yeah, I prefer Gabriel and White just because they're easy to stash on the bench and then play next game week. So yeah, with 3 Arsenal players already in, you can't really fit in Raya, so he drops out as well since last time. Jared Brantwaite as well drops out because Everton have a single game week, which is against Sheffield United, which is a really nice game week for him, Brantwaite. But then after that, they play Arsenal, obviously, so not the best game for Game Week 38 either. So I'd rather go with the double game week players in 37 and then have someone else in Game Week 38, obviously, when they play Arsenal in a must-win game for Arsenal, basically. So he drops out pretty easily. Van de Ven also drops out. Just think the other defenders are better. Van de Ven hasn't looked good. Spurs haven't looked good lately either. So yeah, Pedro Porro is more than enough for cover there. And Vicario is just there as a goalkeeper if you need him for Game Week 38 anyway. Onana drops out as well. Man United looking terrible defensively. Onana looking terrible as well, conceding 2 goals that he shouldn't have probably against Crystal Palace. So yeah, Onana drops out quite easily. And Joao Pedro as well. Obviously, Nicholas Jackson had to come back into this team after being so amazing against West Ham. That was a big mistake on my part last time around. There's a reason why Joao Pedro was number 15 pick last time around, because it just wasn't really that into him. It's just the fact that he was cheaper than Nicholas Jackson, and I didn't have enough money in the bank because of De Bruyne to have Nicholas Jackson on top of all the other players. So yeah, Nicholas Jackson comes back in, and Joao Pedro has to drop out, obviously, because he just hasn't been that good, and Brighton haven't been that good either. He did score last time around, to be fair. He did take the penalty, missed the penalty, and scored the rebound, so he could still get penalties and score penalties. But I think Nicholas Jackson has just proven to be a better pick, especially for these 2 remaining games, if you have the funds needed to have him, obviously. So that's pretty much it for the weekly wildcard draft. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's only going to be 1 more weekly wildcard draft left, obviously, for Game Week 38, and that's pretty much just going to be a free hit anyway. So I think this might just be the final proper weekly wildcard draft video I'm going to make, because the free hit drafts, or maybe I'll actually make like the free hit draft as a separate video next week as well. Just to give me some more time to talk about everything else in the team section video, rather than having like a free hits team there as well. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the weekly wildcard draft series. It's sort of my signature series because it's a bit different to what everyone else is doing with the draft order from 1 to 15. So yeah, I really like making these videos, really like making the drafts. I might just do like a video looking back at all the weekly wildcard drafts I've done over the season, because I've done 37 now with this included, and I'll do another one for Game 38 as well, obviously. So I might want to look back for the 38 game weeks, look at my hits and misses, some things that I've overlooked, some things that I've done correctly. It would be nice to just have like a review of my wildcard drafts throughout the season and see how I've done and which players have been the most featured and stuff as well. See who's been like the most popular player for me to have in FPL this season. And some players that I haven't had. There are probably some missed opportunities that I've completely whiffed on, but But yeah, that might be a video for after the season. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the series. Hope you enjoyed my channel as well. Subscribe if you haven't already and all that stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.